This is the Khmer Times News. My name is Paolo Bornini, and these are your headlines. 42 Vietnamese escaped from slavery at a casino by swimming to freedom. The crackdown on the illegal dog meat trade has made little, if any, effect, and ambulances are acting like vultures. But first, more on that amazing escape. A daring breakout saw 50 Vietnamese escape to freedom from a casino where they were held as slaves by men whose rule was enforced only by violence. Approximately 50 foreign casino workers were seen swimming across a river that marks the border between Cambodia and Vietnam to flee what they described as enforced labour at the hands of violent thugs. The workers had escaped from the Golden Phoenix Casino in Kandal province, where they claimed to have been tricked into working there, a place they simply called hell. They escaped the Chinese-managed casino, and it was beautifully planned, almost as a military operation would be. Inside the casino, they had been held captive by large violent guards that wielded batons and would use them to beat the captives into submission. It was about 10 a.m. when the escapees ran towards the casino doors en masse, with what was a brilliant plan. The strong young men were placed in the front to attack the guards and to create an opening for the women to escape. Another group of young men was at the back, throwing Molotov cocktails at the guards to force back their jailers. The guards were taken by surprise at first, but soon men did show up with iron bars and chased after the Vietnamese. Some of the escapees were so desperate they threw themselves into the river, although they did not know how to swim, and risked their very lives to get away from being enslaved by such cruel men. Human trafficking in the form of job scams is not new to the kingdom, as numerous cases of foreigners tricked into working for illegal syndicates have been reported in just the past few months. The Khmer Times has been extensively investigating these cases, but it is unfortunate that here in Cambodia, this slavery issue is not something that has been relegated to the history books. Ambulance scams are becoming widespread. A traffic accident may cause a rush of 4 or 5 ambulances to head to the scene of a single accident. The ambulances cruise the streets, waiting for an incident, so they may collect the victims. But it is not done with the well-being of the injured in mind, but is motivated solely by profit. Victims are rarely in a position to make an informed choice as to which ambulances have been called for them. And this is the weak point that these vulture ambulances prey upon. Their principle is whoever gets to the injured person first and gets them in the back of their vehicle gets the money. And those charges, on occasions, can be exorbitant. A minister said victims are taken to private hospitals, where outrageous fees have been charged for services and treatments. He said this activity has reached an anarchic state and must stop. He added, when they hear of an accident, they will rush to the scene with their sirens blaring and take the victims to their facility for treatment. Victims, family or friends, and often the police will usually not ask questions in such an emergency situation. He added, some of the ambulances bear no medical facilities, names or logos. These ambulance crews will even take corpses back to their medical facilities, and such behaviour for profit is totally abhorrent. The Ministry of Health understands the situation is spiralling out of control. It is all rather worrying when there's ambulances prowling the capital at night, looking and hoping for blood on the streets, so they may make a profit. The dog meat trade is still flourishing, and authorities this week confiscated an enormous 700 kilos of illegal dog meat, despite moves by the authorities to camp down on the dog meat trade. 90% of Cambodians say it should be stopped, but the trade still flourishes, and recent crackdowns have done little to slow down the trade of this illegal meat. A truck carrying 700 kilos of dog meat has been stopped. It was driven by a 25-year-old man, and it goes without saying this was not a refrigerated lorry. So as to what state the meat would have been in when it reached its destination is also of grave concern. The consumers could well be at a very high risk of serious contamination. Recently, the Department of Agriculture, Forestry and Fisheries in Siem Reap issued a notice banning the trade of slaughtering dogs without permission, but it appears that this order is widely being ignored. It is known that dog meat is still being secretly delivered to buyers in Siem Reap province, and authorities are having trouble on clamping down on the business. Siem Reap itself is the hub of the dog meat market, with it being the #1 city for the rearing and slaughtering of this illegal meat. Many dog meat slaughterhouses have been closed down, but the trade still thrives. An official said that the dog meat business will hopefully end soon, as dog meat eaters themselves are feeling uncomfortable, having to consume the meat away from public scrutiny and to dine in secret. But the social pressure at current is having little effect on the volumes that are being consumed. Here is a really big number for you: 871 kilos. That is how much drugs just 5 people were caught with. The drug busts within the kingdom just seem to be getting not only more frequent, but also bigger in scale. These increases in drug busts only translate into more addicts and yet more shattered lives. Cambodia's drug police have arrested 5 foreigners for allegedly possessing and trafficking more than 870 kilos of methamphetamine. The suspects are all Chinese males, aged between 36 and 71. They were apprehended at 3 locations in Sihanoukville after an investigation of more than 3 months, in yet what is another large-scale criminal incident within the city. As well as the drugs, a speedboat was also seized from the suspects during the raid. And it's worthy of note, by law, if someone traffics more than 80 grams of illicit drugs, they could be jailed for life. These guys were somewhat over that figure. It seems that Cambodia was a stopping off point for these drugs, potentially smuggled in via land border. The drugs were then, it's believed, to be waiting to be transferred with the speedboat onto another country. Police have reported that drug arrests are up. Over 9,000 people have been arrested during the January to July period of 2022, confiscating a staggering 3.3 tons of illegal drugs. Most of the drugs seized are meth, ketamine and heroin. And to give you an idea, that is enough powder to equal the weight of a medium-sized elephant. It seems that the icy fingers of drug addiction are slowly closing in around many that live within the kingdom. There is some good news on the business front, as Cambodian bike production is gaining a reputation for quality and reliability. And that has made the kingdom the biggest exporter of bicycles to the European Union. And seeing how cycling is at a record level within Europe, that is quite the achievement. Across the country, there are 13 bicycle assembly and bicycle component factories, with a total investment value of over $100 million, says the Secretary of State and Minister of Industry. The bicycle industry output was $520 million in just the first half of this year. And he also told the Khmer Times that exports rose by 144% to over 500 million. Cambodia's bicycle exports account for 24% of total bicycles sold within the EU. The 13 major factories produce quality cycles, and the EU exporters approve. Before, in 2017, Taiwan held the position as the leading supplier of bicycles to the European Union. But the Cambodian bicycle export market has now remained in positive territory over the recent years, and it now supersedes Taiwan in the #1 slot. The trade scheme Everything But Arms is the factor that's pushing Cambodia into the EU and making them the biggest in bicycle supplies. Everything But Arms is an initiative of the European Union under which all imports to the EU from the least developed countries are duty-free and quota-free. And that is giving Cambodia a wonderful advantage. And now it's time to look at our sports news. And now the briefest looks at the Premier League and who is it that's now top of the table. A briefest look at the results, and there's nothing too surprising. Crystal Palace did particularly well, 3-1 against Aston Villa. Arsenal 3-0 over Bournemouth, no big surprise there. But there is a joker in the pack. Chelsea lost at Leeds 3-0. So let's have a quick look at the scoreboard to see how they stack up. And here is the top 10. Arsenal sit at the top of the table. They're the only team to have won all 3 of their first games, which is quite surprising. Man City, Leeds United, Tottenham, the usual suspects are chasing on their tail. It's time to have a look ahead and see what the weather has in store for us next week. Due to the weather being composed of a single word, and that word is rain, let's have another of our interesting rain facts. Did you know that astronomers have spotted a planet that's 5,000 light years away, and the raindrops are made of iron? Isn't that amazing? This has been the Khmer Times News. You can contact myself at the studio by mailing us at ktnewsstudio@gmail.com. Please do subscribe and comment and stay up to date with all the breaking news by following us on both Facebook and Telegram. This has been Paolo Bonini, and that was the week that was. I'll see you next Saturday for your weekly roundup.